What we want to do for the second part of the show, Zach, is go through the rookies and talk about what maybe our expectations are now based on what they would have been a month ago. And let's start with Quinyon Mitchell. And here's my take on Quinyon Mitchell, Zach. I will do that exercise I do at the end of every training camp where I rank the guys.
Can't wait.
1 to 90 or whatever it is.
Yep, 91.
How they've performed over the course of the summer based on the expectations going in, right, and the stakes at play. I think Quinyon Mitchell might be number one on that list. And
Wow.
I say that because he has been asked to do different things. What are you smiling at?
I'm getting killed for my headline writing in here.
Well, you're a writer, not a headline writer.
I did not prepare for headline writing in this show. I was giving you the quick summation of what occurred yesterday. Please continue with Quinyon Mitchell being the top guy.
Our expectations entering camp were that eventually Quinyon Mitchell would probably earn the week one job.
Yes.
That is still up in the air. But it was also under the presumption that, what did they necessarily have in Kelee, Ringo, and Isaiah Rodgers? And those guys have both played very well. And yet, the way that we have seen Quinyon Mitchell being used this summer, the Cooper DeJean injury forcing him to be on the field in nickel, him accepting that, looking good in that role, willing to be physical, but also running with Devontae Smith. And now there was one little play yesterday where Devontae shook free of him for a big after-the-catch play. But we've also seen lately Quinyon Mitchell working on the outside in base defense when they don't have a nickel on the field with the starters. I think it's trending towards, I would be surprised if he is not playing close to 100% of the snaps week one if he's healthy. And I think he has looked good. And it's a first-round pick. The expectations should have been high. And for the reasons we talked about, we shouldn't be grading this pick until, we grade the pick, but we shouldn't be determining his value until next year, at least. It's a developmental position. But I think he looks ahead of schedule. And I think there's a case that the team is very excited that he could be a real standout player for them.
Yeah, speaking to Christian Parker, the defensive backs coach yesterday, he suggested what we've seen, that they are open to the possibility of having Quinyon Mitchell on the field in base downs. How much base are you going to play? But I could see some 5-2-4, right? So on the field in base downs, and then moving inside the nickel, should you want to get Ringo or Rodgers on the field. What's so funny now?
I do like defense excels as a popular headline when Shermer's calling plays. That's from Chase Daniel Plainview.
Okay. So, yeah, Christian Parker suggested that could be the case. Everything you're hearing both publicly and behind the scenes about Quinyon Mitchell is terrific. And it's not just the way he's playing. We see that with our eyes. But the way he's working behind the scenes, the manner in which he carries himself in the meetings, the professionalism that he has, the confidence that he has. You hear these anecdotes from A.J. Brown, from Devontae Smith, from Cooper DeJean when you asked him the other day. Yeah, I think there's typically optimism about a first-round pick this time of year, but I think it's merited in the case of Quinyon Mitchell. And I do think it's realistic to expect him to be a 100% snap player, because even when DeJean's ready, and we'll get to that, how soon that could occur, but I think they feel comfortable with Quinyon inside, that he can play an inside when he needs, and then when you're not using a nickel or a dime, you can play Quinyon on the outside, and that's a way to play him every snap. I've been really impressed with him throughout the summer.
So here's the second part of my question about Quinyon Mitchell. Knowing what you know now, would you do it all again if you were the Eagles? Now, just thinking about the guys who went after him, Brian Thomas, who's supposedly having a good camp for the Jaguars, Terry and Arnold, who's supposedly having a good camp for the Lions. They could have gone Graham Barton. They could have gone Tyler Guyton, who looks like he's going to be the starting left tackle, but those are the guys who would have been in contention for the next, 5-10 picks.
Yeah, so given the way the board fell, if we're assuming no trade up or no trade back, just the information you have at 22, do you take it? I was between at the time Quinyon Mitchell and Terry and Arnold. I was leaning more toward Terry and Arnold based on the Alabama profile, right? But I certainly didn't object to Quinyon Mitchell there, and I feel some of the questions I had about Quinyon Mitchell, particularly the smaller school part of it. He looks like he belongs out here, right? You can't, the age part of it, in terms of the development curve, You can't ascertain that right now. I don't know what Terry and Arnold's going to be in 2-3 years. I don't know what Nate Wiggins is going to be in 2-3 years. I can say based on, I think they made a good pick then, and I think they made a good pick now. I still think I probably would have tried to trade up to get one of those offensive linemen. I would probably feel more comfortable. Well, I don't know if Mekhi Becton would have signed with the Eagles had they drafted an offensive lineman, so there's a butterfly effect there. But if you had taken Troy Faltanu at right guard, he's your right guard. But then, frankly, if you trade up in the first round, you're probably not trading up in the second round. You're not getting Cooper DeJean, presumably, in that case. So it worked out well because then what do you do in the slot? They don't really have a slot. Maybe you're drafting with your second-round pick, I don't know, Andrew Phillips or someone like them. Just think off the top of my head who could play in the slot. So I thought they did a good job with it, and I think it worked out well.
Yeah, and I think they would say that they feel pretty good about that one.
Yeah.
Although I know your boy Nate Wiggins is out there as well.
Nate Wiggins is a good player, man. You're putting a little too much Emmanuel Forbes shade on Nate Wiggins.
I'm not like anti Nate Wiggins.
Okay.
Nowhere near in the conversation of Emmanuel Forbes. You're the one putting that on. I'm not putting that on.
Okay, well, I like Nate Wiggins then. I like Nate Wiggins now. I was probably a little scared from the Emmanuel Forbes backlash, but I heard
so that's a you problem.
I heard Emmanuel Forbes put like 15 pounds on this offseason.
That's good. So he weighs 30 pounds now?
You a weightist now?
I mean, a little bit.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean, he's on a pitch count, but he has been working in on defense in team drills over the past 2 days of practice, exclusively in the slot, mostly with the second team, although he has taken a handful of reps with the ones as the slot player. What do you make of the way that they are bringing him along, and what are your expectations now, especially early in the season, for the way that we will see him be used?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, Bo, because I knew how high they were on him. I was probably similarly bullish on DeJean. I thought it was a setback, obviously, when he was injured, but I anticipated that they would accelerate the acclimation period. I did not think he would take first team snaps that day. Now it was one series, and I thought what was most notable there was, like you said, Quinyon Mitchell bounced on the outside because you saw the future right there. But I don't think they're going to take it slow with DeJean. They didn't take it slow with him in the spring. They had him playing multiple spots then. I think that, Vic Fangio said yesterday he's still on a pitch count, like 12 snaps right now. You can't really put much stock into 7-on-7 with him.
He said it's too early to even think about where he's going to be playing, right?
So the question that I asked Vic was, what does he need to show you during the next 2-3 weeks to feel comfortable playing him early in the season? And I think Vic interpreted that, what have you seen from Cooper DeJean? Because his answer was, it's too early to answer that. The part about what do you need to see from him, my guess from a physical level, they need to see that he's recovered from the injury. And then just because I think really that's the question. From a pure football perspective, I think he's their best option in this slot right now. Maybe Quinyon Mitchell, but their best combination would be Mitchell on the outside, DeJean on the inside, with Slay opposite Mitchell, and then you have Kelee, Ringo in case of injury and taking over for Slay next year. I think that will be the ideal scenario, and then Isaiah Rodgers is good quality depth for you. But yeah, I mean, I will ask you, what do you need to see from DeJean in Saturday's game? Number one, because it sounds like he wants to play Saturday's game, but in practice this week to say, all right, you can trust him for Brazil, because Brazil is a different. Now, I think we both feel confident come November, December that DeJean's in there, but what about September, October?
Yeah, I think my expectations now are, I think the most likely outcome is that he's like the dime corner week one in Brazil, as they're like bringing him along in a specific role, and maybe Quinyon Mitchell is the nickel week one, but also playing outside and base. And then if they go dime, it's Mitchell and DeJean inside, or maybe Avonte Maddox, and then it's Ringo or Rodgers outside. And then you also have that long break between week one and week two, right? You have
not as long days. Not as long. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant between the preseason game and week one. Yeah, week 1 and week 2.
Right.
Right.
There's 3 extra days because you go from Friday to Monday.
Yeah.
And I think then it might be like, okay, now we're gonna hot shot him to the nickel spot. What do I need to see? I don't know. I just him staying healthy.
Sure.
He hasn't been targeted much in the action he's been on the field. I think the only time was yesterday. It was a throw to Britton Covey from Kenny Pickett. It was nice coverage, but it was completed, and then he sort of laid a little wood on Covey, which, I mean, anybody could do that. That's, so why pick on somebody your own size?
Now you're being a sizist. Okay.
But yeah, I think that they are still as bullish on Cooper DeJean's long-term prospects as they were when they drafted him.
What's more likely? Cooper DeJean first team slot week 1 or Cooper DeJean first team kick returner week 1? And chat, feel free to weigh in on this one as well.
Good one. I think slot is still more likely, but I think they're both pretty likely.
Okay.
What do you think? You think kickoff return is going to be his job right away?
I think he's going to be the kickoff returner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then let's circle back on when he was drafted. Obviously, this is a little bit different because they traded up for him with him in mind. But the other guys who went around that neighborhood, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Kamari Lassiter, Max Melton, Jackson Powers Johnson, Tyler Nubin. Anybody there making you feel any pangs of regret? A.D. Mitchell.
Well, I don't know how McKinstry's playing. I did like McKinstry. I like DeJean more than McKinstry. But if you're looking outside of that, maybe a Jackson Powers Johnson as your starting guard. Although I more like the idea of drafting a tackle who can play guard as opposed to a center who can play guard. So probably wouldn't go Powers Johnson. So no, I mean DeJean. Look, I'd like DeJean at pick 22. I thought DeJean was a no-brainer at pick 40.
Okay. Let's talk Jalen Hunt before we get to our next ad break.
If actually the one player I would say is Adonai Mitchell would be an interesting one.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one who I said at the end?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as you look at the like the way that the team is built, I think we all agree that they could use an actual third wide receiver.
We all silly like the mayor.